I was uninvited from a planned girls' trip the night before because someone in our friend group had beef with me, and instead of standing up for me, my best friend said she couldn't be bothered because it would have affected her mental health, and now I'm feeling betrayed. Posted by u/Vispasi. Hi everyone. So, I, 25F, have a friend group from college, and we all still hang out as a group every couple of months. My best friend, let's call her Amelia, 26F, and I hang out almost every weekend and are very close. She is also good friends with another girl in our group, let's call her Betty, 26F. Betty and I are not super close, but I always thought we were friendly. I know in girlfriend groups it's normal to not be super close with everyone, and that's okay. I've always tried to be her friend and treat her the same as the other girls. A few months ago, our group was at a picnic discussing a group trip. Betty said her family had a cabin upstate and that we should all go up there for a weekend. Everyone agreed, and we all set the date for this past weekend. Everything was great and normal these past few weeks. We were all texting in a group chat about going on this trip and sharing what we were going to pack, what movies we were going to watch. The night before we were supposed to leave, Betty sent me a text message essentially saying, "Hi, I feel like we're not close friends. I think you don't like me, and that's okay. I don't want us to be fake with each other, so it's for the best that you don't join us this weekend." I'm shocked. However, I try to be understanding and tell her, I do like you and enjoy our hangouts. It's okay, we're not super close, I do not act fake around you. I totally understand, and the group can go without me. If I did anything to hurt you, I'm sorry and am open to talking about it. This really hurt me, and I was in shock trying to figure out what happened and what I did wrong. I texted my best friend Amelia, who was attending the girls' trip, to let her know I was uninvited. Her first reaction was basically, "Oh well, you girls weren't close anyway, so it's whatever." She then said, "I hope you don't expect me to get in the middle of this, because I don't think it's my place and it would affect my mental health." I, of course, trying to be accommodating, said everything is okay and it's okay for her not to get involved. After a day of crying about this and feeling really awful, I realized that this was a really crappy thing that Betty did to me. And I also realized that my best friend Amelia was not supportive of me. I don't expect my best friend to not go on the trip, but I expected her to acknowledge that what Betty did was really mean and awful. I just wanted her support, and I was hoping that when inevitably the topic of me comes up during the girls' trip, she would stand up for me and say, "Hey, it's okay for you guys not to be friends, but it's not okay to exclude someone from a group event at the very last minute." I let Amelia know that her lack of support was really hurtful to me. And if she were in my position, I would acknowledge that our mutual friend did something really awful. I would feel really bad going on this trip knowing Amelia was at home feeling really hurt. She, however, thinks that this conflict is solely between Betty and me, and that she shouldn't get involved. She said she has an independent friendship with Betty and that her getting involved would make things worse. Do you think it's wrong or too much to expect my best friend to stand up for me when our mutual friend uninvited me last minute to a group event? I'm not asking her to pick a side, however, it feels like she's okay with Betty essentially bullying me. It's okay that she wants to be friends with Betty, that's totally acceptable. However, I do think you should have the courage to stand up to a friend who's bullying your other friend. Greatly appreciate your insights. Thank you. /relevant comments. Commenter. Very last minute change in plans. I don't think your friend is a good friend or as innocent as she makes out to be. Someone must have recently said something to Betty, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was Amelia, even in passing or jokingly. Commenter 2. Yeah, odd for her to make that point about Op's private criticism of Betty. Almost like someone might have accidentally, or not, broken Op's confidence and shared those remarks. I'm thinking Amelia doesn't want to get involved because she's the one who kicked the hornet's nest. If Op and Betty never have a proper convo to hash it out, Amelia never gets called out for starting the drama and gossiping. Op's response. I don't know, I'm trying to think back about what I might have said about Betty that's so bad. I think I've only really said, yeah, she's overly dependent on her boyfriend, and she doesn't have a sense of humor. I don't know if any of this makes me deserving of being uninvited. I'm trying to be objective and see if I have a fault in this as well. Commenter 3. I wouldn't want someone at my family's cabin if they were talking crap about me, which is exactly what you did. She found out and is uncomfortable playing host to someone who says unkind things behind her back. Your closer friend doesn't want to get involved because you put her in the middle of it by gossiping. Op's response. In my defense, I said a lot of this stuff from a place of hurt, as my attempts to get close to her never worked out. She also spoke about me behind my back, but I guess it's immature of me to use that as an excuse. Regardless, I understand your point. I think if I were in her spot, I would have called, had a conversation, not waited until the last minute. Op adds an edit to her post. Thank you all for your comments. I really appreciate your insights. I agree that, in principle, friends should stick up for each other, but that's not always the reality. I'm okay with not being friends with this group. Friends change a lot in your 20s, I guess. Some stay, some go. It is what it is. I spoke to Amelia, and she's pretty set on the idea that she shouldn't get in the way and that it's not her place to say anything. She's also now saying that she doesn't think I should be upset, considering Betty and I were never close, and there were times I criticized Betty behind her back. So I shouldn't be upset. Maybe she's right, I shouldn't speak ill about someone, but I'm not perfect. And I think there's a difference between a private criticism and a direct offense. If that changes your perspective, let me know. Op adds a second edit to her post. I texted Betty and let her know her actions were mean-spirited and unkind, and I am okay not being friends. I left our group chat. I spoke to Amelia, and we agreed to take some time apart and speak in person about this next week. Op adds a third edit to her post. Hi all, here's a final update. I spoke to Amelia on the phone, and it seems we just don't see eye to eye on this case. She said she acknowledges I'm hurt, but ultimately, it was Betty's choice. I think this argument was going in circles, so I decided to put the issue to rest there. I think that, though I'm valid in my ask, Amelia is just not the person to support me in the way I wish. Amelia and I are still friends. I think that I'm willing to let this just be an isolated moment where we didn't align. And that's okay. I have other friends who are willing to stand up for me, and I now have a newfound appreciation for them. Amelia and I will continue to be friends, but I will keep this in mind for the future. Thank you to everyone for your encouraging words and also for helping me see different perspectives. Update 1 week later. Hi all, thank you so much for all of your kind words related to my first post. I wanted to make an update post because there have been some revelations. But first, here's a big congrats to the commenter on my last post asking if there is a man involved. Turns out there is. My best friend, Amelia, calls me to chat, a week after the whole uninvited situation happened. We talk like normal, and then she tells me that she wanted to tell me the truth about what happened and why I was uninvited. Here's what she tells me. Basically, a weekend before we were supposed to go to the cabin for a girls' trip, we all went out for drinks at a bar. There was our entire girl group, and a few other mutual friends. Basically, Betty was trying to set up Amelia with one of the guys at that event. And turns out all of the girls in the group were upset with me because they thought I was flirting with him, knowing they were trying to set him and Amelia up. This is news to me because I have given this man zero thought. This is also out of left field. I just started laughing when Amelia told me about this, because what the F? Let me clarify, I was not flirting with him. I didn't speak to him at all except for a few minutes very late into the night. From my perspective, he was the one asking me about my dating life, how I feel about men, etc. I had a similar conversation with the other girls and guys when the topic came up with them. I was not flirting with those other girls and guys either. Also, I would never flirt with a guy knowing my friend likes him. That's not the type of person I am. I thought my friends knew that. And I really thought Amelia knew that about me. Anyways, I guess these things were being whispered about me, which led to Betty uninviting me completely. This was not brought up to me before the girls' trip. Amelia asked me if I found that guy attractive and I said no. That's basically the only communication about this situation I'm aware of. I don't know, I don't think I said anything flirtatious to him. I didn't ask him about his dating or sex life. I didn't touch him in any way. I didn't ask for his contact or anything. I was just being friendly. I just wish they'd asked me about the situation instead of assuming the worst of me. So yeah, I'm done being friends with these girls. It just feels like blatant SLT shaming. I'm hurt by Amelia, but I clarified to her that I would never do that and I'm sorry if my conversation with him looked flirtatious. I don't want to continue this fight because I have other priorities in my life. Thanks for your thoughts. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. You need to drop that friend group immediately. This goes double for Amelia. Every single person has lied to you, judged you, and excluded you, without any respect or even the courtesy you'd give an acquaintance, much less a friend. And Amelia was the worst in this. She played it off as a disagreement that had nothing to do with her, knowing the truth and the gossip that had judged you, over a guy. For that, you need to cut her out of your life. Commenter 2. Wow, I'm sorry, but even if your friend liked the guy, if he was showing more interest in you than her, that isn't your fault. They all sound childish, to be honest. Op's response. Apparently, she's still talking to the guy and asked him about his conversation with me that night. He said I was flirting with him. I was not, but even if I was, it takes two to tango. If he's such an upstanding guy and thought I was flirting with him, Why didn't he change the topic? Why did he ask me questions about my dating life, relationships, and sex? It's also high school and childish. Adds an edit to her post. Just wanted to say I really appreciate your thoughts and your words of support. When Amelia told me about this issue, I specifically told her that I don't want to be friends with people who assume the worst of me. And because I didn't want to argue, I just said Amelia and I were fine. But I think you're right, she's also not been a good friend to me. And she did let her jealousy get in between our friendship. Our first confrontation, in my original post, was really hostile. She kept telling me that it's not her place to get involved and that it's between Betty and me. But actually, this does have to do with Amelia. And instead of telling me what was wrong, she just made me feel bad about being upset that I was excluded. I think I will kind of distance myself from her. We can be friends, but just not as close. As for the other girls in the group, screw them. I'm fine never hearing from them again. I have other friends who have my back. Thanks again.